Hey everyone, it's Anna Runyon. Welcome to the Classy Career Girl podcast, and I'm excited today. We are covering the most common questions I get from going from employee to entrepreneur. And so we've been tackling them every week on the podcast, and today we're going to dive into figuring out what your niche is, because this is a very common question I get. Like, how do I figure out what my niche is so I can start my business? And this is extremely important. You definitely want to know what your niche is, what your market is, who you're marketing to. I will tell you, I work with a lot of coaches. I talk with a lot of coaches. I have conversations with a lot of coaches who are interested in joining our career coach certification program here at Classy Career Girl. And a lot of them come after getting certified in other coach certification programs like ICF or other ones out there. There's many other certification programs who will certify coaches in coaching or life coaching. And these coaches who got certified in a very broad niche really struggle after they go through those programs because they still don't have a market and they still don't have a niche. And so this is why it's really, really important, because you're going to struggle figuring out your marketing message. You're going to struggle with figuring out who your clients are going to be, how to get your first client. You're going to struggle with your marketing and your social media, because your market is not going to know that what problem you solve in the market. So it's going to really impact how you create content, how you create your social media as well too. So you really want to clarify this. You really want to know what your niche is, especially if you're a coach, but really any type of business that you're starting, you want to know who your market is so that you can be very clear and you can communicate your offer to your clients. If they don't know what problem you solve, they're not going to come to you looking for help or anything like that, especially if you have a very broad niche or you're marketing to a lot of different niches. Now, let me be clear before I get started. Of course, having a niche is really important. It's going to help you stand out from the competition, become a leader in your space, have higher conversion rates for your sales calls and your webinars and however you're selling. But let me be clear about this, because I don't want you not to start because you don't know your niche. One of the best ways to figure out your niche is to actually start your business, start talking to people, start doing your service, whether you're doing like practice coaching or practice, providing any sort of beta test as well too. All of this is going to help you get clear on your market. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more today how I figured out what my niche was when I started my business over 10 years ago. And I just really want to make sure that I be clear and say you should start. Even if you don't know your niche, it's going to get clear. So definitely just start. Even if you don't know your niche, start helping people, start serving people today, and it will get clear as you go. When I first started my business, I had just started my Classy Career Girl blog. I thought my niche at that time was going to be high school girls and helping them figure out what their career path should be after they graduate high school. This was back in the very early days. One of my first events that I had was at a Girls World Expo in San Diego. I was super excited. I had my own little booth that I paid to get, and I set up and I started talking to these high school girls. And that really was my first market. I learned by doing. I took my own advice and I just started, trying to have them be my clients. And unfortunately, at that time, it was very hard to coach high school girls. I started to realize, oh, I needed to work with the parents. And so at that time, I started also to work in other areas of my company, and it just got a lot clearer where I should focus my marketing. And I'm going to talk about that today. There's kind of three steps that I recommend going through in order to clarify what your market is. And also, one of the biggest ways that I was able to clarify my niche and my market is by listening to the questions that my audience kept asking me. And so, if there are people that are coming to you with questions, even if it's just your friends or your family members, and they're asking you for help, for me, people started asking me for help with their career and with their resume. And so, I started to see that there were some areas that I had strengths in and I had knowledge and experience in, and that people were very interested in that knowledge and experience. So pay attention when people ask you questions. Now, the first way to narrow down and clarify who your niche is to look back at your experience. Now, if you're coming from the corporate world like I worked in the corporate world for 8 years before I went full time in my business. I looked at that experience that I had in the corporate world and I looked at, those skills that I had, the training that I had, the experience I had in the corporate world. I looked at the problems that I enjoyed solving in my day job and like, what are those experiences that I could bring with me in my business? So one of the things that I was doing back then is I was doing a lot of teaching and a lot of training in my corporate job. I was doing a lot of leading and a lot of mentoring with other people in my company. And so those things started to let me see like these are the things I really enjoy in my day job. I really enjoy like the coaching part of my job, even though I was in finance. Coaching wasn't my main job, but I started to like coach other people, other new hires, helping them learn how to get ahead and how to like excel in their careers and how to navigate their career within our company. And those were the times that I enjoyed my job the most. I was also an adjunct professor at my day job, and then I also did teaching as a professor at a university as well too on the side. And so all of those things started to add together for me to see like what are those things I really enjoy doing, what is my superpower, and what are those problems that I know that I can help others with. And a lot of that came back with management, leadership, career transition. Those are the things I was already doing in my day job. HR stuff, I loved hiring. You can see how that has played out in my business as well. So think about like what area in your business, or if you're a coach, like what are you the most passionate about coaching about? What do people repeatedly ask you for help in? When you look back all of the experience and all the questions that you've gathered, like what are people asking you about? What do you love talking about? What are you passionate about? What questions do your ideal clients have for you when you start talking to potential clients or when you start talking to certain markets? Like, what are those questions people have? This should feel really natural. So, if you're not passionate about this market, about this niche, about this topic, then you've got to do a little bit more brainstorming and research. And so that's why when I started with those young girls, like I was super passionate and still am about that market. And I knew that I could help them. And that quickly translated into helping people, kind of in that middle management area who are in career transition. I coach a lot of women who have been in the corporate world for a long, long time and want to make that career transition to entrepreneur, similar to the path that I took. And that just really excites me because I love being an entrepreneur and I love sharing that path and making it super simple. And I understand what it was like when I was working my day job, but then I was also working my business on the side as well too. So I'm super passionate about that market. And I love helping women in that market. So, first step, really figure out, of your experience that you have, what can you take from that to translate into your new business? All right, the second step then is market research. You really want to figure out in all of the service that you can provide, you want to figure out who needs your help, who is okay, I'm gonna do that again. All right, the second step that you want to do to clarify who your niche is you want to do market research. I know this always isn't very fun to think about, but market research can be really, really fun. One of the ways that I did a lot of market research is by just doing free sessions with people. So as a career coach, I started doing, and we do this with our coaches as well too, we do practice coaching, 10 hours of practice coaching in our certification program. I did at least that many when I was just starting my business as well. So any way that you can do like a beta test or a practice test in, how you serve people or selling your product to people, giving it away for free, giving it out for a discount, anything that you can do to start to identify like who that ideal client is and what problems that they have. Here are the questions that you want to ask your potential market. You want to know what is going on in their heads. You want to know them like better than they know themselves so that you can be very clear on what they need. So you want to know what are those problems and those challenges that people are facing. You want to know what their goals and what their vision is. It's not about creating a problem you think they need. We want to use the words that they are using. So a common mistake that people make when they start their business is to use a marketing message that is not the actual words that their clients are actually saying. So of course we can do surveys. That is a very easy, thing that you could do. You can send out a digital survey. But what I highly recommend, and you can do this really easily on Zoom, even for free, you get 40 minutes on Zoom for free. You can have free sessions with people where you can just ask them, like, what are your goals and your challenges? What is your vision? If everything was working perfectly well in the next 6 months, like, where would you want to be? You want to figure out where that market is now and where they want to be in the future. And if you do these sessions over and over again, you can record them and listen to them later as well too. And so you can study those sessions, you can figure out what those words are, you can even transcribe those sessions as well and pull out those words that people are saying. That is your marketing message. Those are the words that you want to use in your marketing copy when you're doing social media, when you're sending newsletters, when you're creating sales pages or webinars, or when you're just talking to people on the phone and or on Zoom and you're giving your recommendation for your offer. Those are the words that we want to use because our goal really is to help people get from where they are now, which they have that challenge, that obstacle, to where they want to be. And we do that by doing market research, talking to people. And this is why I love step three, which is first, step two is all about doing those practice sessions, those free sessions. Just get on the call on the Zoom for 15 minutes with someone and pick someone's brain and just like learn about those challenges. Now, step three is to do actual sales conversations. Actually start selling your product and providing your recommendation to people over and over again, because this is another really great way for you to determine what are those problems and those challenges that people ask. One of the issues about asking someone like, how much would you pay for this service? Or do you need this service? Is they're gonna say, I wouldn't pay for this. So we can't ask those questions, but we really have to get to their mindset. We have to figure out what's keeping them up. And then we sell our recommendation and our offer is that thing that's gonna really help them and support them in getting to where they really want to be. So we can then test potential niches and we can get feedback about what is most important to your audience. And so, like I said, this is where step three is then where I recommend starting to do sales calls. And you learn so much by talking to your market. You learn so much, way more than just sitting behind your computer. So don't worry about your website. Don't worry about checking your email, all the things you think you need to start a business, your books, your legal stuff. Like, don't worry about that. Just get out there and start talking to people and start selling, start selling your product and service. And you're going to hear those objections. You're going to hear from people what they need instead. Oftentimes, like, it's so good to provide my offer to people because I will go through my offer and then they'll be like, "Oh, well, does this cover blank?" And I'm like, "Oh, it does, but I forgot to include that in my offer. I didn't actually show that on my page and in my pitch." And so that helps me clue in, okay, this is important to someone. I need to make sure that I include this part. Or a lot of times that's not even in the product. And then I start adding things into the product based off that objection that someone had in my sales conversation. And so she actually needed something else. And so that's our job as an entrepreneur, is to provide those solutions in our products and services. So like I said, this is where sales conversations are really, really important no matter what you're selling. What needs aren't being addressed for your ideal clients right now? If you're looking around and you feel like there's so much competition out there, there's so many people already doing what I do, look back at your experience and look back and see, like, what are those things, what are those challenges and those obstacles people are having that's actually, they're not getting the result that they want. They're still getting stuck. Even though they're going through all these other programs. In the beginning of this call, I told you that I have a lot of people that come to me after they do like an ICF certificate, career coach certification or coach certification or a life coach training program. And then they come to me and then they're still stuck, right? So I have so much competition out there. There's so many other certification programs. But I provide a unique path in my program, a unique model that includes a lot of those things like business coaching inside of it and career coaching inside of it that other certifications don't have. So when they go through those programs and then they come to me, I know their problems and challenges after they've gone through those programs. So I know what they still need. And that's what you want to do too. You want to look at the competition. Don't be worried about your competition. You can go to your competition and see and talk to the people who have experienced your competition and then figure out what they're still missing after they go through that program. After they've done that, where are they still at a loss? Where do they still need help? And your program can support that in them and help them truly, truly get to the destination that they really, really want. So maybe it helped solve part of their problem, but they still have that problem and they really want that result. So I hope that this has been helpful today to help you clarify who your niche is. Like I said, remember in the beginning, I said, don't let not knowing stop you from getting started. Definitely go out there, start working with people, start talking to people, get your business started. You'll be so happy you did in 90 days. Trust me. If you want more of my teaching and my training, I have a whole free webinar training on how to go from employee to entrepreneur step by step. There's phases you go through and steps that you take. And I have a whole free training walking you through it. You can register at that at classycareergoal.com/CRP webinar. If you're wondering what CRP stands for, I'm just going to say it stands for Corporate Rescue Plan. It's actually a program I created now 10 years ago. We're coming up on the 10-year anniversary because I created it in December 2014. And it was basically a program I put together based on what I did to escape my 9 to 5, to rescue myself from the corporate world and to go full on into entrepreneurship. So we're celebrating the 10-year celebration of creating that program. It's gone through a lot of changes, a lot of improvements, a lot of re-recordings. But that's what CRP stands for. So I have a whole training for you that's completely free if you go to classycareergoal.com/CRP webinar that walks you through the whole plan. And at the end, you can join us in Corporate Rescue Plan, and I would love for you to join us inside. So I will see you guys next time on the podcast. Talk to you later.